The wind howled across the Virginia mountains, carrying sheets of snow that turned the afternoon sky into a white wall of noise. 7-year-old Emma Chen gripped the leash tighter as her Siberian husky, Ghost, pulled her forward along the trail behind their cabin. The dog's gray and white fur disappeared against the snow for a moment before his black-tipped ears swiveled toward something Emma could not hear. Ghost stopped. His body went rigid, muscles tensing beneath his thick coat. Emma stumbled into him, her purple snow boots sliding on the icy path. "Ghost, what's wrong?" The husky's nose lifted, nostrils flaring as he tested the air. A low whine escaped his throat. Then he lunged forward with such force that the leash burned through Emma's mittened hands. She cried out as the rope slipped free, and Ghost vanished into the swirling snow, leaving only paw prints that filled with fresh powder within seconds. "Ghost! Come back!" Emma's voice disappeared into the storm. Her father had warned her to stay on the marked trails, to keep Ghost close because the training facility beyond the ridge was restricted. But Ghost had never run off like this before. Never. She followed his tracks, her heart hammering against her ribs. The cold bit at her cheeks and nose despite her scarf. Tree branches creaked and groaned under the weight of ice. Every few steps she called for Ghost, but the wind threw her voice back at her. The trail curved sharply, and suddenly Emma was facing a tall chain-link fence topped with barbed wire. A sign read, "Restricted Area, U.S. Government Property, No Trespassing." Through the fence, she could make out low concrete buildings half buried in snowdrifts. The training base. Her father worked there sometimes as a contractor, but Emma had never been this close to it. Ghost's barking echoed from somewhere beyond the fence. "Ghost!" Emma ran along the fence line, mittens scraping against frozen metal. She found a section where the bottom had been pushed up, creating a gap just large enough for Ghost to squeeze through, and for a small girl to follow. She hesitated. Her father's voice played in her head. "Stay away from the base. It's dangerous." But Ghost was in there, alone and upset about something. Emma dropped to her belly and crawled under the fence. Ice soaked through her jacket immediately. She scrambled to her feet on the other side, snow clinging to her clothes and hair. The barking came from a small building ahead, its door hanging open. Emma ran toward it, her breath coming in ragged gasps. As she got closer, she could see that the door's lock had been forced, the metal twisted and broken. "Ghost, are you okay?" She stepped through the doorway into darkness. The temperature inside was barely warmer than outside. Emergency lighting cast the hallway in dim red. Ghost's barking came from deeper in the building, frantic and urgent. Emma moved forward, her boots squeaking on the concrete floor. The hallway opened into a large room filled with equipment she did not recognize. Monitors, computers, maps covering the walls. And in the center of the room, tied back to back in chairs, were 2 men in dark clothing. Ghost stood beside them, barking at Emma, then at the men, then back at Emma. The men were not moving. Emma's stomach twisted. She took a step closer, and that was when she saw the foam at the corners of their mouths. Their skin was gray and waxy. Their chests rose and fell in shallow, labored breaths. Zip ties bound their wrists and ankles to the chairs. A spilled water bottle lay on the floor nearby, its contents frozen into a small puddle. "Hello?" Emma's voice came out as a whisper. One of the men's eyelids fluttered. His lips moved, but no sound came out. His name tag read, Martinez. "I'll get help." Emma turned to run, but Ghost blocked her path, pushing against her legs. "Ghost, move! They need help!" But Ghost refused. Instead, he trotted to a desk in the corner and pawed at it, whining. Emma followed him and saw papers scattered across the surface. Most of the words were too complicated, but she recognized one, poison, and another, antidote. Her hands shook as she picked up a paper with a diagram. It showed a small refrigerator with a medical cross on it. The paper had an arrow pointing to a room marked Medical Supply, East Wing. Ghost barked again, sharper this time. Emma looked at the men. Martinez's breathing seemed worse now, more like gasping. The other man had not opened his eyes at all. She did not understand everything happening here, but she understood this. These men had been poisoned. Someone had tied them up and left them to die, and Ghost had found them. "Okay," Emma said, her voice steadier now. "Okay, boy, show me." Ghost took off through another doorway. Emma ran after him, the paper clutched in her fist. The hallway stretched on forever, doors on either side, most of them locked. Ghost ignored them all, his claws clicking on the floor as he navigated the maze of corridors like he had been here before. They reached a door marked Medical. Ghost scratched at it. Emma tried the handle. Locked. She wanted to cry. They were so close, and now this. Ghost barked at the door, then at a window set high in the wall beside it. The window was small, barely 2 feet across, but it was open a crack. "I can't reach that, Ghost." But Ghost was already moving. He grabbed Emma's jacket sleeve in his teeth and pulled her toward a supply cart parked against the wall. Emma understood. She climbed onto the cart, her legs wobbling. The cart rolled slightly and she gasped, but Ghost steadied it with his body weight. Emma reached up and pushed the window open wider. She pulled herself up, her arms screaming with effort, and wriggled through the gap. For a terrifying moment she thought she would get stuck, but then she was falling, landing hard on a tile floor on the other side. The medical supply room was small and cold. Shelves lined the walls, filled with bottles and boxes. Emma found the refrigerator in the corner. Her fingers were so numb she could barely grip the handle, but she pulled it open. Inside were rows of vials and syringes, all labeled with long scientific names she could not pronounce. But there, on the middle shelf, was a box marked Emergency Antidote Kit, the same symbol from the paper. Emma grabbed it and ran to the door. This side had a push bar, and it opened easily. Ghost was waiting, and together they sprinted back the way they had come. But when they burst into the computer room, Emma skidded to a halt. Martinez had slumped forward in his chair, no longer breathing. The other man's head had fallen back at an unnatural angle. "No, no, no!" Emma rushed to them, dropping to her knees. Her hands fumbled with the antidote kit, but it was sealed with tape and plastic she could not open with her mittens on. She tore them off and tried again, her bare fingers aching in the cold. Ghost circled the men, whining. Then he stopped, ears pricked. He ran to the doorway and barked once, sharp and warning. Emma heard it then. Footsteps. Someone was coming. She froze, the antidote kit half open in her lap. What if it was the person who did this? What if they came back to make sure the men were dead? Ghost's hackles rose. A growl rumbled deep in his chest, something Emma had never heard from him before. The footsteps got closer. Closer. A figure appeared in the doorway, backlit by the red emergency lights. Tall, wearing dark clothes and a mask. Emma could not breathe, could not move. The figure took a step into the room. Ghost launched himself forward, barking and snarling. The figure stumbled backward, raising their hands. "Wait! Don't!" The voice was muffled by the mask. "I'm here to help." But Ghost did not believe them. Neither did Emma. She pressed herself against Martinez's chair, the antidote kit clutched to her chest. The figure slowly reached up and pulled off the mask. A woman's face emerged, pale and frightened. She was younger than Emma's mother, with short dark hair and wide eyes. "Please," the woman said. "I'm Agent Lin. I work here. Those are my partners." She pointed at the men in the chairs. "Someone attacked us, tied them up. I managed to get free, but I've been trying to find the antidote." Please, if you have it, we need to help them now. Emma looked at Ghost. The husky had stopped snarling, but he still stood between Emma and the woman, uncertain. How do I know you're telling the truth? Emma's voice shook. Agent Lin held up her hands higher. You don't, but they're dying. Every second counts. Look at Martinez's vitals monitor. Emma glanced at the computer screen beside her. A line on it was flattening out, beeping slower and slower. Please, Agent Lin said again. Her eyes were wet. I couldn't save them alone, but you're here. You found the antidote. We can save them together. Emma made a choice. She nodded. Agent Lin moved quickly but carefully, staying slow enough that Ghost would not attack. She knelt beside Emma and took the antidote kit, her hands shaking as she pulled out 2 auto-injector pens. Hold this. She handed Emma a small flashlight. Shine it on Martinez's neck. Emma did as she was told. Agent Lin pressed the injector against Martinez's neck and pushed the button. There was a hiss, and Martinez's body jerked slightly. Then nothing. Come on, Agent Lin whispered. She moved to the second man, repeating the process. For 10 heartbeats, nothing happened. Emma's eyes burned with tears she refused to let fall. Then Martinez gasped. His eyes flew open. He sucked in air like a drowning man breaking the surface. Martinez! Agent Lin grabbed his face. Can you hear me? He nodded weakly. His eyes found Emma, and confusion crossed his face. But there was no time for questions. The second man, whose name tag read Taurus, was stirring now too. Agent Lin produced a knife from her boot and cut through their zip ties. Both men slumped forward, barely conscious but alive. What happened? Martinez's voice was a rasp. How long? 2 hours, Agent Lin said. Maybe less. Someone got past security. They hit me from behind, knocked me out. When I came to, you were both tied up, and the place was ransacked. I found you gone but followed the breach in the perimeter fence. She looked at Emma. Who are you? How did you find them? My dog found them, Emma said quietly. Ghost. He smelled something or heard something. I don't know. But he led me here. Agent Lin stared at Ghost, who sat calmly now, his job done. Impossible, she breathed. But the evidence was right in front of her. Martinez coughed, his color slowly returning. The mission files. Did they take the mission files? Agent Lin's face went white. She spun toward the computers, her fingers flying over the keyboard. Emma watched as screens filled with text and images that meant nothing to a 7-year-old girl. Oh no, Agent Lin whispered. They copied everything. The entire Northern Watch operation. Names, locations, safe houses. That's 23 assets, Torres croaked. If that information gets out, 23 people will die, Martinez finished. He tried to stand, but his legs buckled. Agent Lin caught him. We need to lock it down, Torres said. Call the director. Initiate emergency protocols. Communications are down, Agent Lin said. They cut everything. Phones, radio, even the emergency beacon. We're isolated until the next supply run tomorrow morning. Tomorrow's too late, Martinez said. His eyes hardened despite his weakened state. The handoff is tonight, 1100 hours. If they deliver that intel to their contact, it's over. Emma understood enough to know this was bad. Very bad. These people in danger were like her father's friends at work. Real people with families. How far to the main gate? Agent Lin asked. 2 miles, Torres said. In this storm, on foot, 30 minutes minimum. By the time we get there and contact headquarters, the handoff could already be done. Then we stop them before the handoff, Martinez said. We're barely standing, Agent Lin pointed out. The poison's still in our systems. We need medical treatment. Emma thought about her father. He was supposed to come home tonight, but the storm had closed the mountain roads. He was stuck at the main facility, 10 miles away. She thought about the training scenarios he had told her about during dinner, how agents planned for every possibility. "What if we don't let them leave?" Emma said. 3 pairs of adult eyes turned to her. "What do you mean?" Agent Lin asked. "The storm," Emma said. "It's really bad. If they're still here somewhere, they can't get out either. The roads are closed, so they're probably hiding somewhere until it passes, right? Waiting to leave?" Martinez and Torres exchanged glances. "The kid's right," Torres said. "If they're smart, they'd hole up in one of the secure buildings, wait out the worst of it, try to leave at dawn when visibility improves." "Building 7, Martinez said. "It's the only one with independent power and heat that's off the main grid. If I wanted to hide and stay comfortable, that's where I'd go." "That's also where our weapons cache is," Agent Lin said grimly. "Then that's where we go." Martinez pulled himself fully upright, leaning on the desk. "Agent Lin, help Torres. I can manage." "You can't be serious," Agent Lin said. "Look at you. Look at him. One decent punch and you're both down." "What choice do we have?" Martinez shot back. "Those assets are counting on us. Their families are counting on us." Ghost barked. Everyone looked at him. He walked to Emma and sat down, pressing against her side. His message was clear. "The girl is with me, and I'm going wherever she goes." "Absolutely not," Agent Lin said, understanding. "You're a child. This isn't a game." "I know it's not a game," Emma said, her voice small but firm. "But Ghost found you. He found the antidote. He can find the bad people too." "She's right," Martinez said quietly. "That dog is remarkable. Better nose than any of our K9 units." "No," Agent Lin said flatly. "I won't put a child in danger." "I'm already in danger," Emma pointed out. "They might come back here. Wouldn't it be safer if I stayed with you?" Agent Lin opened her mouth to argue, then closed it. She looked at Martinez, who nodded slowly. "Fine," Agent Lin said, "but you stay behind us at all times, and if I tell you to run, you run, understand?" Emma nodded. Ghost's tail wagged once. They moved through the base like shadows. Martinez and Torres leaned on each other, their movements slow and pained. Agent Lin led, a handgun drawn from somewhere Emma had not seen. Emma and Ghost brought up the rear, the girl's small hand buried in the husky's thick fur. The storm had worsened. Wind screamed between buildings, and snow fell so thick Emma could barely see Agent Lin's back. But Ghost moved with confidence, his nose low to the ground, following a trail only he could detect. Building 7 appeared through the white curtain like a ghost ship. Lights glowed in the windows. Someone was definitely inside. Agent Lin raised a fist. Everyone stopped. She crouched behind a dumpster, and the others joined her. "2 entrances," Martinez whispered. "Front and emergency exit in back." "They'll have eyes on both," Torres added. "Not necessarily," Agent Lin said. "Visibility's terrible. They'll assume no one's coming until morning. They might be comfortable, careless." "What's the play?" Martinez asked. Agent Lin studied the building. "Lin, you and Martinez take the front. Torres, despite being hurt, you go around back. I create a distraction. When they investigate—" Ghost stood suddenly, his body going rigid again. A low growl started in his chest. "What is it, boy?" Emma whispered. Ghost stared at the building's side, where large dumpsters created a narrow alley. His ears swiveled. Then Emma heard it too. Footsteps crunching in the snow. Coming from the alley. Coming toward them. Agent Lin put a finger to her lips and motioned everyone to spread out. Emma's heart pounded so hard she thought it might burst from her chest. She pressed herself against the dumpster, Ghost beside her. A figure emerged from the alley. Tall, dressed in black, carrying a backpack. They walked with purpose toward the front of Building 7, their head down against the wind. Agent Lin moved like lightning. She hit the figure from behind, tackling them into the snow. The backpack flew from their hands, landing near Emma's feet. The figure fought back, strong and trained. They rolled, grappling with Agent Lin in the snow. A fist connected with Lin's jaw, and she fell back. Ghost leaped forward with a snarl that made Emma's blood freeze. He clamped his jaws onto the figure's arm, and they screamed. Martinez and Torres rushed forward despite their weakness, grabbing the figure's other arm and pulling them to the ground. "Ghost, release!" Emma called out. The husky let go, but stood over the figure, teeth bared. Agent Lin recovered, pressing her gun to the figure's head. "Don't move." The figure went still. Martinez pulled the mask off, revealing a man's face, young, maybe 30, with a thin scar across his cheek. "Viktor Petrov," Martinez said, recognition in his voice. "FSB, we've been tracking you for months." The Russian agent said nothing, but his eyes flicked to the backpack near Emma's feet. "Get it," Agent Lin told Emma. Emma picked up the backpack. It was heavy. She handed it to Torres, who unzipped it with shaking hands. Inside was a laptop and several USB drives. "The mission files," Torres confirmed. "Where's your contact?" Agent Lin demanded, pressing the gun harder. "Who are you meeting?" Petrov smiled. "You think I would tell you?" "Yes," Martinez said, "because you're poisoned too. Same stuff you gave us. You just don't know it yet." Petrov's smile faltered. "What?" "Your water bottle," Agent Lin said. "The one you drank from in the computer room. We laced it before we even arrived at the base. Standard protocol for high-risk operations. Anyone trying to access sensitive files would need hydration during the stress. The poison has a 6-hour delay. You've got maybe 2 hours left." Emma did not know if this was true or a lie, but Petrov's face went pale. "The antidote," Martinez continued. "We have it, but you'll only get it if you tell us everything." Petrov's eyes darted between them. He was calculating, weighing his options. Finally, his shoulders sagged. "Building 7, he said. 2 more inside. We were supposed to wait until dawn, then exfiltrate through the North Ridge. The contact meets us at the border." "Who are the 2 inside?" Agent Lin asked. "Local hire, mercenaries. They don't know what they're carrying." "Weapons?" "Armed, but not expecting trouble." "Agent," Lin looked at Martinez. "Your call." Martinez closed his eyes for a moment. When he opened them, his gaze was steel. "We end this now," he said, "before they realize he's been taken." They bound Petrov with his own zip ties and left him face down in the snow. Ghost stood guard while the agents discussed strategy in hushed voices. Emma watched, feeling strangely calm despite the danger. This was real. The scared girl who had crawled under a fence felt like someone else now. "Emma," Agent Lin said, kneeling beside her, "I need you to do something very important. Can you do that?" Emma nodded. "Take Ghost and go back to the computer room. There's a red emergency phone on the wall. Pick it up and hold down the button marked 9. That will connect you directly to base security. Tell them everything that's happened. Tell them we need backup at Building 7. Can you do that?" "What about you?" Emma asked. "We're going to keep these men busy until backup arrives. But we need you to make that call. You and Ghost. You're the only ones who can get back safely in this storm." Emma understood. Agent Lin was keeping her safe, giving her an important job that kept her away from the danger. But Ghost had other ideas. The husky was staring at Building 7 again, that same intense focus he had shown at the fence. He whined, pawed at the snow, then barked once at Emma. "Ghost, what is it?" The dog ran toward the building, stopping after a few yards to look back at Emma. His meaning was clear. "He senses something," Emma said. "Something important." "We don't have time," Agent Lin began, but Martinez held up a hand. "That dog hasn't been wrong yet," he said. "Let's see what he's found." Ghost led them around the building's west side, away from the main entrances. He stopped at a small window set near the ground, partially hidden by snow. Inside, dim light flickered. Martinez knelt, looking through the window. His face went hard. "Explosives," he whispered. "They're rigging the building to blow." "Why would they do that?" Torres asked. "Cover their tracks," Agent Lin said. "Destroy evidence of the breach. Make it look like an accident." "When?" Martinez asked. Ghost scratched at the window urgently. Emma pressed close to peer inside. She saw the devices Martinez mentioned, their red displays counting down. The numbers meant something, but she could not quite read them from this angle. "Can you see the timer?" Martinez asked Emma, realizing her position gave her the best view. Emma squinted. 1, 4, 2, 8. 14:28, Torres said. "That's 14 minutes and 28 seconds. "We need to disarm it," Agent Lin said. "Not enough time to get an expert here," Martinez replied. "And even if we could, I'm not sure anyone could do it blind from outside." "We evacuate," Torres said. "Get clear. Let it blow. We have Petrov and the files." "There are fuel tanks underneath this building," Martinez said. "If it goes up, the chain reaction. We'll take out half the base. Maybe reach the residential area beyond the fence." Emma's house was beyond the fence. Her mother was there, waiting for Emma to come home from her walk with Ghost. "We can't let that happen," Emma said, her voice small. "We won't," Agent Lin promised. She looked at Martinez. "Is there an access point? Any way to get to those explosives without going through the front?" Martinez thought. "Maintenance tunnel. Runs under the building. Access hatch near the east wall." "Show me." They moved quickly, clock ticking in everyone's mind. The east wall was completely buried in snowdrifts. Martinez and Torres dug with their bare hands, too weak to work fast. Agent Lin joined them. Emma felt useless. Then she remembered. "Ghost, dig." The husky understood. He attacked the snow with all four paws, his powerful legs throwing powder behind him like a machine. Within seconds, he had cleared more snow than all three adults combined. The hatch appeared, metal and frozen shut. Martinez grabbed it, pulled with everything he had left. The metal groaned but held. "It's frozen solid," he gasped. Torres tried next. Nothing. Time was running out. Emma could feel it like a weight on her chest. She looked at Ghost, at his strength, at his determination. An idea sparked. "Ghost, pull!" She grabbed his collar, pointed at the hatch handle. The husky understood. He bit down on the handle's edge and pulled, throwing his full weight backward. His claws scrabbled for purchase in the icy snow. The hatch gave way with a screech of metal. The opening yawned dark and forbidding. "Stay here," Agent Lin told Emma. Then she looked at Ghost. "Both of you." But as Agent Lin started down the ladder, Ghost whined and paced. He looked at Emma, then at the hatch, then back at Emma. His message was clear. Something was wrong. Something was down there that the agents did not know about. "Wait," Emma called. Agent Lin paused on the ladder. "What?" "Ghost thinks there's danger. Something you're not expecting." "Emma, please," Emma said. "Just listen to him. Let him check first." Agent Lin looked at Martinez, who nodded wearily. "The dogs earned our trust." Agent Lin climbed back up. Ghost immediately descended into the darkness, his white fur disappearing into the black. They waited, the only sound the howling wind and their own harsh breathing. A bark echoed from below. Sharp, urgent, repeated. "That's his warning bark," Emma said. "There's someone down there." "The third operative," Martinez breathed. "Petrov said 2 in the building, but there was a third. Guards." They could not leave Ghost down there alone. Emma moved before anyone could stop her, climbing down the ladder. Agent Lin cursed and followed, with Martinez coming after. The tunnel was narrow and dark, lit only by Agent Lin's flashlight. Ghost stood 20 feet ahead, hackles raised, staring at a figure crouched beside the explosive devices. The figure had their back to them, working on the bombs, with steady hands. They wore headphones, completely unaware they were no longer alone. Agent Lin raised her gun. "Freeze!" The figure spun, pulling a weapon from their belt. But Ghost was faster. He lunged, hitting the person in the chest and knocking them flat. The weapon clattered away. Ghost stood over them, growling. "Don't move," Agent Lin commanded. The person slowly raised their hands. Martinez pulled off their headphones and mask. Another young face, but this one was a woman, hard-eyed and cold. "How many more?" Martinez demanded. She said nothing. Ghost pressed closer, his teeth inches from her face. She flinched. "Just me and the two upstairs," she finally said. "And Petrov." "Can you disarm this?" Martinez pointed at the explosives. She laughed bitterly. "Even if I wanted to help you, I can't. It's set. Tamper-proof. Anyone tries to disarm it, and it goes immediately." Agent Lin checked the timer. 11 minutes. "Then we run," Torres said. "Everyone out, now." "No time," Martinez said. "Even if we clear the blast radius, the fuel tanks will still chain react. Best case, we lose the base. Worst case, the explosion reaches the civilian area." Emma's house. Her mother. "There has to be a way," Emma said. "Cooling system," the woman said suddenly. They all looked at her. She was staring at the explosives with a strange expression. "You flood the room with coolant from the emergency fire suppression system. Drop the temperature fast enough, and the detonator circuit will freeze before it can trigger." "Maybe." "Maybe," Agent Lin said. 70-30, the woman said. 70% it works. 30% we all die. "Better than zero," Martinez said. "Where's the coolant control?" "Upstairs. Main panel in the security office." "That's near where the other two are," Torres said. "Then that's where we go," Agent Lin replied. They moved fast, back up the ladder, into the storm, around to the building's front. 9 minutes left. The front door was locked, but Martinez shot the lock off. They burst inside, Ghost leading the way. The building was warm and well lit, a stark contrast to the frozen hell outside. Voices came from a room to the left, the two mercenaries arguing about something. They had not heard the gunshot over the storm's howl. Agent Lin motioned for silence. They crept past the doorway. Ghost moved like a shadow, absolutely silent despite his size. They reached the security office. Martinez checked the panel while Torres kept watch, and Agent Lin held her gun on their captive. "I don't know what I'm looking for," Martinez admitted. "Blue panel, left side," the woman said. "Switch marked F1. "Why are you helping us?" Emma asked. The woman looked at her, really looked at her for the first time. "Because I have a daughter, too, about your age, and she lives in the valley." Martinez found the switch. "Ready?" "Do it," Agent Lin said. He flipped it. Alarms immediately started blaring throughout the building. Lights flashed. Red. And from below, a hissing sound as coolant flooded the room with the explosives. The mercenaries burst from their room, weapons drawn. They saw Agent Lin and fired. She dove, returning fire. The woman prisoner tried to run, but Ghost was on her instantly, knocking her down. Torres dragged Emma behind a desk as bullets shredded the air. The world was noise and chaos and terror. Emma squeezed her eyes shut, her hands over her ears. Then silence. Emma opened her eyes. Both mercenaries were down, wounded but alive. Agent Lin was bleeding from her shoulder but still standing. Martinez had collapsed against the wall, the poison and stress finally too much. Torres was barely conscious. And Ghost stood in the center of it all, still protecting Emma. The woman prisoner sat on the floor, hands on her head. "Did it work?" she asked quietly. They waited. 4 minutes left on the timer. 3, 2, 1. Nothing happened. The explosives had failed. The coolant had frozen the circuits. Emma's legs gave out. She sat down hard, shaking. Ghost immediately came to her, licking her face, pressing against her. "You did it," Agent Lin said, though whether she was talking to Ghost, Emma, or the prisoner, Emma was not sure. Sirens wailed in the distance. The emergency call had gone through somehow, or the alarms had triggered automatic response. Help was coming. Emma buried her face in Ghost's fur and cried. Not from fear anymore. From relief. From exhaustion. From the weight of what had almost happened. Ghost sat perfectly still, letting her hold him. His job was not finished until his girl was safe. 3 hours later, Emma sat in a warm office wrapped in blankets, drinking hot chocolate. Her mother held her on one side. Her father, who had been brought in from the main facility by emergency helicopter, held her on the other. Ghost lay at her feet, groomed and fed, and wearing a new collar with a special badge attached. Director Chen, no relation to Emma's family, stood before them. Behind him were Martinez, Torres, and Agent Lin, all receiving medical treatment but insisting on being present. "Emma," the director said, kneeling to her level, "what you did today saved 23 undercover operatives and their families. You saved this entire base. You may have prevented an international incident that could have started a war." Emma did not know what to say. She just nodded. "More than that," Martinez added, his voice still weak. "You trusted your dog. Ghost is the real hero here. His instincts, his training, his courage." "He's not trained," Emma's father said. "He's just a pet. We got him from a shelter 2 years ago." Agent Lin pulled out a tablet and showed them a photo. It was a younger Ghost in a vest that read, "Search and Rescue." "Ghost isn't just a pet," she said. "He was part of an elite mountain rescue program in Alaska. 5 years ago, he was injured in an avalanche, saving a trapped family. They retired him, but his training never left him. He knew what to do today because he has done it before. He is a hero." Emma looked down at Ghost. The husky looked back at her with those ice-blue eyes, and she understood. He had found his purpose again. After 2 years of peaceful walks and playing in the yard, he had remembered what he was born to do: save people. "We would like to offer Ghost a position," the director said, "as a consultant to our K9 program, with Emma as his handler, of course, once she is old enough. But for now, we want to honor him officially." He pinned a medal to Ghost's collar. "Valor in service," it read. Ghost's tail wagged. That night, after the debriefing and the interviews and the medical checks, Emma lay in her own bed with Ghost curled at her feet. The storm had passed, leaving the world outside blanketed in pristine white that glowed in the moonlight. She thought about the day, about fear and courage, about how sometimes the bravest thing you can do is follow someone you trust, even when you do not understand where they are leading you. Ghost sighed in his sleep, his paws twitching with dreams. Maybe he was running through snow. Maybe he was saving someone. Maybe he was just being the good boy he always was. Emma reached down and put her hand on his head. "Thank you," she whispered. Ghost did not wake, but his tail thumped once against the blanket. Outside, the mountain stood silent and strong under a sky full of stars. The base was secure. The operatives were safe. The threat was neutralized. And in a small cabin on the ridge, a little girl and her husky slept peacefully, knowing they had done something extraordinary together. Because sometimes heroes are not the ones you expect. Sometimes they have 4 legs, a wagging tail, and a nose that can find trouble before trouble finds you. Sometimes they are a 7-year-old girl brave enough to crawl under a fence in a blizzard, and sometimes, when the world needs saving, they are both. The 2 CIA officers, Martinez and Torres, returned to full duty 6 weeks later. They requested Ghost's presence at their commendation ceremony. Emma brought him, brushed and proud in his new collar. When they called Ghost to the stage, the entire auditorium rose in a standing ovation. Ghost walked calmly beside Emma, took his place, and sat perfectly still as the director placed a second medal around his neck. "For extraordinary service," the director announced, "and for reminding us that heroes come in all forms." Martinez knelt and scratched Ghost behind the ears. "Thank you, boy," he said quietly. "You gave me the chance to see my kids grow up." Torres did the same. "You are a very good boy," he said, his voice thick with emotion. "The best boy." Ghost's tail wagged, and the room laughed through their tears. After the ceremony, as Emma and her parents walked Ghost back to their truck, Agent Lynn caught up with them. Her arm was in a sling, but she was smiling. "Emma," she said, "I wanted to give you something." She handed Emma an IS envelope. Inside was a letter on official letterhead. "It's an invitation," Agent Lynn explained, "for when you turn 18. If you want it, there's a place for you in our organization. We need people who think fast, stay brave, and trust their instincts. You have all three." Emma looked at her parents. Her mother was crying. Her father nodded slowly, pride and fear mixing in his eyes. "You don't have to decide now," Agent Lynn said, "but know that you have a future here if you want it. You and Ghost both." Emma folded the letter carefully and put it back in the envelope. "Thank you," she said. She did not know what she would choose when the time came, but she knew one thing for certain. Wherever she went, whatever she did, Ghost would be with her, because that is what partners do. They stick together. Through storms and danger and impossible odds, they protect each other. The Chen family drove home as the sun set over the mountains, painting the snow pink and gold. In the back seat, Emma rested her head on Ghost's shoulder. The husky gazed out the window at the passing world, alert and ready. Because heroes never really stop being heroes. They just wait for the next person who needs them. And Ghost knew, with the certainty of instinct and the wisdom of experience, that as long as Emma needed him, he would be there. Always. Forever. Her very good boy.